So who are you?
That's a spoiler.
You're a spoiler?
But only if you're slow.
Idiot, nobody has cast that spell on me in the last 10 turns, and you can be damn sure no one here is concentrating.
Ladies, gentlemen, and adventurers of all ages, as more time passes since the release of Baldurs Gate 3, more people are slowly but surely coming to the end of the game. As your playthrough winds down, there are two very strong options for how to continue enjoying this game once the credits roll. One, just do another playthrough, play another class, make different choices, make different friends or different enemies, or two, a fan favorite, mods. These are a function of the beauty of player-created additions to the game, essentially letting the community decide what type of content they want to have. Then they make it, then they release it into the world for anyone else to use too. The modding scene for Baldurs Gate 3 is absolutely shining brightly so far, so I thought it would be fun to go over 10 of my favorite mods for the game up to this point in time. Then maybe we'll revisit this in the future if there is enough interest. First up then, we have a particularly core mod realistically, which is the Basket Full of Equipment mod by Antimax. This mod adds in an absolutely ridiculous amount of unique custom clothing, it adds in dyes, a few weapons here or there, and it also gives you the clothing options of every single NPC in the game pretty much, totaling at over 800 pieces of brand new armor for your character, which is why this mod is actually ridiculous to engage with. Definitely a problem of too much choice if you ask me. Essentially, if you really care about how your character looks visually, this mod has so much to offer you, just an absolutely ridiculous amount, letting you really select a particularly specific look if you want one, more specific than your wildest dreams could ever offer, honestly. Then second up, we have a somewhat related mod, which is a Nightsong Armor recolor and retexture by L, changing the look of the Nightsong Armor pretty dramatically and making it look extremely cool, and yes, a fair bit revealing, but what would you expect, really? By default, this is only applied to Nightsong, the actual character in the game, but of course, with the Basket of Everything, you can put the Nightsong Armor on anyone, so you change how it looks, then put it on one of your companions, and there you go, you got a fancy looking Shadowheart. It's visually quite neat, there are multiple color options for the mod as well, so you can choose how you want it to look, and of course there are always armor dyes if you want to try customizing it even further. After that, we have an extremely important mod for the purposes of fun, which is Party Limit Begone by Sildur. What this mod does is pretty much just what it says on the tin. It removes the limit on your traveling party, or at least the original limit, no longer being locked to yourself and only 3 companions, either in single or multiplayer, as it not only increases party size to 16 maximum, so you can carry a whole frickin' army with you, but it also increases the player limit in multiplayer up to 8. So if you have a whole cabal of friends who are playing the game and you want to try the absolute lunacy that would be an 8-player playthrough, it is in fact possible due to this mod's existence. Of course, as you start climbing towards a 16-player party, the game performance does start to struggle a little bit, but these things are honestly to be expected when you're messing with that kind of thing. Overall, this just works extremely well. It's fun to be able to have your whole crew of companions around, getting inspired as a group when you take certain actions, all having their story play out together, you know, it's just cool. Past that, then we have the 5e Spells mod by Celeste, and this one is absolutely insane. Essentially, the goal of this mod is to add every single spell from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition into Baldurs Gate 3 that isn't already there. And while it isn't quite complete, the true high-level spells aren't in yet, it is exceptionally active as it stands, giving you access to an insane amount of spells that simply aren't otherwise within the game, all of which with varying actual effectiveness in the confines of the game setting as well, but more than cool enough that they're actually available, and there's just so many choices for you to actually get now. I could spend a month here slowly going over each spell in this because there's just a ton added, but essentially, if it is a spell in D&D that wasn't in Baldurs Gate 3, this mod either already has it or plans to have it in the near future, so this is absolutely one to keep an eye on. Then past that, we have an interesting way to expand your way of playing Baldurs Gate 3, specifically by upping the max player level from 12 up to 20. The important thing to note here is that this doesn't let you level any individual class past level 12, your levels past 12 all have to be multi-class levels into different classes, or else the game will just crash, being confused. But this lets you mess around with doing something that it's really just silly, and especially considering the game doesn't balance around you doing this, you can really dive into things that are generally like silly like haha, not just silly like overpowered, do things that don't make any sense but are just enjoyable to do, enjoyable to play, and just take it around making a laughingstock of the enemies 8 levels below you even at the very end of the game. All that said, of course by default the game wouldn't even have enough XP to get you to level 20, but this mod has a couple of variations that change XP gain rate as well, so that you can get there in a reasonable, normal playthrough and get to experience the beauty of what a level 20 character feels like within this game's systems if you want to. to. Then we have something a bit smaller in function but extremely meaningful to any respectable tabletop player, which is dice customization. Specifically one customization pack that I want to point to you today, the Astral Sea dice set by John Zix. If you equip this die in game, you'll see it whenever you do rolls, and this one is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, come on, it's covered in bright gradients and just striking color choices in general. This is just my personal favorite dice customization mod that I've seen so far. Obviously, having the right dice is one of the most important things in this type of situation in a tabletop-esque game, even if this isn't the tabletop version, and this one is just so thematically fitting with the story too. Then we have a pretty major change to the game as a whole, which is True Initiative by Leadfoot89. After some digging around in the files, it turns out that initiative in combat for this game, for whatever reason, is rolled with just a d4. This gives less opportunity for initiative-focused builds to actually shine, and so this mod quite simply changes that d4 into a d20, which brings it in line with how this is actually done in Dungeons & Dragons itself. The result is an attempt to make more balanced combat, less grouping if one side goes 4 in a row, then the other side goes in a group, and instead just really spreading things out a little bit more and letting people with initiative bonuses actually get a proper advantage as a result. Then as we start rounding towards the end, we have the additional fighting styles mod by Recat. Again, this takes inspiration from the tabletop game, and this mod is a way to add in just a ton of fighting style options that are not included in Baldurs Gate 3, including interception, which lets you protect allies, close quarters shooters to ignore disadvantage from nearby enemies when using ranged weapons, and also gives you +1 to ranged attacks. There are a total of 10 added fighting styles, all of which are capable of completely changing the way that you build your character and completely shaking up the way that you even think about combat in this game. From unarmed fighting to make unarmed a viable way of killing things even for non-monks, or thrown weapon fighting to increase your thrown weapon damage by 2. It's just a really nice meaty expansion on possible playstyles that you can choose to go through the game with. Then second to last, we have a simple quality of life mod, Readable Font by SS7877, and this is just quaint and helpful. The text font coloring in most tooltips in the game by default is sort of weirdly dark, somewhat blending in with the color of the background box, and it can be just a little bit rough to read, especially for anyone who has vision issues sometimes. So this mod simply makes the text brighter, it makes it pop, it makes it more readable, and simply makes it more comfortable to read items in the game. Who can be against that? As simple as it is, it just makes the game nicer for people who are struggling. Then finally today we had a mod that has a bit of spoilers, so beware before continuing of course, and this mod is Orin's Armor and Recruitment by Seer. The name of this one is quite simple and very apt. When talking to withers in the camp, you can recruit Orin as a hireling, then just have her join you as a permanent companion for your party as a result. Obviously she has no say in dialogue, counting as a hireling, but her combat ability is nothing to be trifled with, being made a rogue by the modder, with a lot of special features related to actual abilities in the game, the way that she can fight, the way she can transform, and some actual things that happen within the Orin fight itself, which have been added to her as a companion. But simply, this is essentially just a full custom companion with full custom statted armor and unique effects as a result of that as a character in the first place. And it's really cool to see mods like this exist this early. And that just about does it for today then everyone. 10 of my favorite mods for Baldurs Gate 3 released up to this point. Let me know what you think about all of these, and if you mod your game as well, let me know your favorite mods and I will check them out to potentially use in the future myself, maybe even talk about it with everyone else who watches this too. I hope you've enjoyed this video, this look into the world of modding within the game and how it currently stands, whether you're someone who frequently mods yourself, or if you just wanted to peer into another world and see what it was like. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.